We are going to start with the LARE program with Doug Nusbaum. Doug started his career in natural resources in 1984 with the USDA Forest Service near Grants Pass, Oregon, within the Soils and Geology section, and as a wildland firefighter. Doug came to DNR in 1991 with state parks, supervising a crew at Channel Lake State Park. In 1992, he was hired as an erosion control technician for the Division of Soil Conservation and was then promoted to agricultural conservation specialist for the division. Doug currently is the senior program manager with the Lake and River Enhancement Program and is stationed out of the Columbia City field office. Doug coordinates and manages numerous statewide LARE projects involving sediment and logjam removal and restoration projects on lakes and rivers. So without further ado, please welcome Doug Nusbaum. Take it away, Doug.
Thank you, Amy, and hello, everyone. I'm going to give you a kind of a quick history on the Lake and River Enhancement Program. I'll probably refer to it as LARE most of the presentation. It started, Division of Soil Conservation was created back in 1986. In about 89, there was a $5 lake enhancement fee that was attached to all motorized boat owners. That was our funding source back then. Probably some of you have been around. You remember the T by 2000 program back in those days. It was back then in, I think, 2003, we got a bump. It changed to graduated dollar registration fees based on the year of your boat. And then here just recently in 2023, we're going to get another bump in funding. Boat registration fees increased. Let's see here. Okay, let me try this. There we go. Grant funding. All our grants are due April or January 15th. Our program is a 80-20 cost share with 80% coming from the program, 20% coming from the sponsor. And there is a maximum of $100,000 per project that we fund. So to fully realize the full $100,000, you'd have to have a $125,000 project. If you've got an $80,000 project, we'd fund 80% of that up to that $100,000. We award these grants 2 times in the spring and in the summer. The spring projects, half of the funding, which is about 1.2 to 1.3 right now, go to dredging projects, mainly on our public freshwater lakes up north. But we have done some projects down south. We have one on Ohio, a couple on the Ohio River and some of the reservoirs down there. We also do control of exotic, mainly vegetation. Some of you guys we've had Brazilian elodea, starry stonewort, Eurasian milfoil, whatever gets transported into the state. We try to get a hold of that. And then we also fund logjam removal, which I see a lot of districts working with folks on those type of projects in the counties. There's not a very good funding source. I think I talk about that here in a minute. The other half of our funding goes to what some of you may be more familiar with is what we call our biological and engineering projects. Those include watershed studies, our diagnostic studies. We do water quality studies. We do a lot of wetland restoration, 2-stage ditches. We also do, in this program, we can do engineering feasibility studies. We do design work and then also construction, pollinators, stream bank, shoreline. We do dam removals. We just recently got into the dam removal business probably 4 years ago. We've been taking a lot of dams out around the state. And then we also have a project where we do urban practices, not a lot. We don't see a lot of interest. We do have an urban biologist within the division that does some of that work for us. But we work with city parks, and we're doing a pretty nice stream project in the city of Fort Wayne. I'm going to focus a little bit on the SWCDs here. I do know there's other ICP staff present, but this talk about the district here real quick. Mainly what we see is what we call the watershed land treatment projects, and then log jams or a few other projects we've had districts. But the WLTPs or log jams by far are the two most common practices that we see districts applying to us for. And then we're the only state program that funds log jam removals around the state. You can see that the districts have worked with surveyors and county commissioners, parks departments, and act as the sponsor sometimes, or other times the county commissioners will act as their own sponsor. One thing to point out is that log jam removal funding cannot be used on regulated drains. I mean, that's typically more to the northern part of the state. We see county surveyors and regulated drains and drainage boards. There are a few down south, but not as many as what we have up here. You can see that we focus on minimizing impacts to the stream, and that there's a maximum of $35,000 per log jam. Whoa, lost a bunch there. Or this isn't the right. Oh, here we go. The watershed land treatment projects. Watershed, this is similar to NRCS's EQIP program, but the districts act as the go-between between the landowners. We focus on maybe 2 to 3 smaller 14-digit HUCs or watershed areas. These projects typically last 3 to 5 years, but we've had some that have lasted longer. As long as you have interest in those watersheds, we'll continue to work with you as long as we have funding. Most of the practices are an 80% cost share, but we do have a not to exceed rate on a lot of our practices. And then we also have some of our practices, filter strips, blind tile inlets. Those are like an incentive payment. And when a district signs up for this, they're allowed to charge 2% administration fee. That's with the cost share forms that they're filled out, the landowners sign and fill out, the districts approve them, then they send them to LARE staff for their approval. And I should add that to qualify for a watershed land treatment, we need some type of study. It can be a 319 study. It can be one of our watershed diagnostic studies, but there needs to be a study done that shows some impairments to that watershed, or a couple watersheds if that's what you're going for. And yeah, I went through that one. Whoa, I'm having a problem here. Amy. Log jam.
Okay, so it says for log jam removal on a creek, can it be a project specifically and SWCD? Can it be a project specifically and SWCD or community government needs removed, or does it have to be a landowner?
It can be on any piece of property. We do require any of our sponsors to be what we call representative of the landowners that in the area. So a landowner themselves cannot apply to us for a log jam removal project. It would need to be the SWCD, county commissioners, county surveyor, somebody like that. And those are project specific. We've had some that we've done multiple log jams. The Muscatatuck's one, for instance. We find a lot of log jams down there. That river flattens out. It's pretty steep coming down, and it gets down into the bottom in Jackson County, areas like that, and Scott County, and it just flattens out and the logs just get stuck. So we do multiple or we've went in and just taken one log jam out too.
Great. I think that answered your question, Leslie. If not, or if you have another one, please feel free to add that in. Emily asks, how recent does a watershed diagnostic study need to be to apply to this funding?
We like to see them probably, and that's really dependent on what has happened in that watershed. I know there's been a lot of development around the state. Some watersheds have seen less and less impacts than when the diagnostic study was currently done. I would say that we are now seeing a lot more stream erosion in our streams and rivers around the state than what we had in the past, and that's due to storm events, climate change, if you believe it or not. I mean, and I kind of think there's something going on there with all the stream erosion that we're seeing. So I would say take a look at your watershed, and if there's hasn't been a lot of development or change since it was done, you may be okay. We can do kind of a scaled down version of a watershed diagnostic study and take the information that you may already have and just update the portions that may need to be updated and incorporate that in there. Yeah, that's, I would say reach out to one of the 3 staff members, talk it over with us, and we can see if you need to, if it's old enough that you need to get a new one, or maybe we can just update some of the information that needs to be updated.
Great. Cora asks, is there guidance on the website for beaver dam removal?
There is not, but if you email me, I have a guidance document that the Division of Water put out. That may be something we post to the website. That probably wouldn't be bad. We do have, I think, a category of other resources, and maybe that's one we should put in there. But yeah, I've got that information, and maybe Amy, I'll get it to you, and you can post it.
I will do that. Dorothy asks, have you seen any fish species migrate upstream due to the removal of dams?
We had one over in, I believe it's Crawfordsville, that there's they've tagged and marked fish, and they are having, and then they have barriers, and they're marking more species of fish upstream than they had. We are also getting we've done a couple modifications. Modifications are rare. It's only if there's, for instance, a dam that couldn't be removed. We've done a couple one on the White River in Muncie that had a sewer pipe going through the middle of the dam, so we couldn't take the dam out, but we do these, what we call rock riffles, that provides passage. And we're seeing the Bureau of Water Quality in Muncie does a lot of fish sampling, and they're seeing species upstream of these dams that they've never recorded before. They've got fish species history documentation going back to the early 70s. So and we took out 2 and modified 2 in Muncie. So they're up and down the White River now.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you. Here's another question. Tashina asks, the 80-20 program split, can that be in-kind match for the 20% or all financial?
What we allow is half of your match can be in-kind. 10% of that 20% can be in-kind, which on some studies and some projects, most of our projects have a public meeting component. So if a district's willing to host a public meeting, take the minutes, and then provide it to the consultants that's selected, that you usually meet your 10% match doing something like that.
And then back to Dorothy's question about fish migration. She wants to know where she can find information on fish species migration.
I'll have to talk to my fisheries biologist and get back within the division and get back to you. I know it's out there. Like I said, the Bureau of Water Quality in City of Muncie has is a big resource for the White River there going through Muncie. But yeah, there's some other information out there. I'll reach out to some of our division staff and department staff and see what we can find out.
Okay, if you want to send that to me, Doug, then I will get that out.
Yeah, I better take a note now.
Great questions. Thanks for the engagement, everyone.